Hi, my name is Gabby Orlando, and today I'm going to give you a look into the life of a person with Down syndrome. The disability I have researched is Down syndrome. In medical terms, it is referred to as trisomy 21. When a person is born with trisomy 21, they have an extra copy of chromosome 21. People with Down syndrome often have lower IQs than others. Chromosomes can be defined as tiny packages in your cells that contain your genes. Genes carry information called DNA that controls what you look like and how your body works. While babies are usually born with 46 chromosomes, babies with Down syndrome have 47. How is a baby with Down syndrome diagnosed? Doctors often are able to diagnose Down syndrome before a child is born. When a woman is pregnant, doctors will remove a sample of genetic material. This test is called amniocentesis. Using this sample, they could check if there is an extra material from chromosome 21. If the baby is diagnosed after birth, it is often pre-diagnosed by their appearance. According to CDC, the characteristics of a child with Down syndrome include a shortened face, almond-shaped eyes that slant up, a short neck, small ears, a tongue that tends to stick out of the mouth, small hands and feet, and poor muscle tones or loose joints. After that, they conduct a test called a chromosomal karyotype. This test takes a sample of a child's blood and tells doctors if there's an extra chromosome 21. The only way a person could be diagnosed with Down syndrome is if they have an extra chromosome 21 or if there's a problem with that chromosome. The IDEA category that Down syndrome falls under is intellectual disability, and its federal definition is significantly sub-average general intellectual functioning, existing concurrently with deficits in adaptive behavior and manifested during the developmental period that adversely affects a child's educational performance. There are 5 categories of developmental characteristics: cognitive, social, emotional, physical, and the different levels of functioning. In the next few slides, I will discuss in depth each one. The first I will be discussing is cognitive. Usually, children with Down syndrome will have a mild to moderate intellectual disability. Most people with Down syndrome will have a lower IQ than average, which is between 85 and 115. People with Down syndrome, however, will usually have an IQ between 50 and 69, which would be classified as mild intellectual disability, or 35 to 50, which would be classified as moderate. In severe cases, people could have low IQs as low as 20 to 35. Children with Down syndrome will often have low attention spans as well. According to DSRF.org, people with Down syndrome are often hyper-aware of other people. They could be oversensitive and easily distracted by people and their emotions, making it harder to focus on the task at hand. This can make it very hard for children with Down syndrome to focus in the classroom. They tend to focus more on things going on around them rather than what they are supposed to be focusing on. They also often have problems with their short-term memory. Individuals with Down syndrome will typically perform badly on verbal short-term memory tests. It seems to be unknown exactly why this happens, but it could be linked to other things such as a deficiency in the phonological loop. They are also usually strong visual learners. When children with Down syndrome can see things illustrated, it has been proven that they often learn better. Children need to be able to see everything when they are learning. When learning visually, they learn faster, and that helps them build motor, social, and literacy skills. Next, I will be discussing the social characteristics. The first social characteristics would be problems with expressive communication. Usually, a person with Down syndrome is able to understand more than they can actually communicate. This leads to problems because they are unsure how to express what they are trying to say. Usually, they will also have strong social skills. According to Advocate Medical Group, most are quite adept at reading social cues, especially at picking up the feelings and emotions of others in their environment. Because of this, people with Down syndrome have a reputation for having excellent social skills. Many people, but not all, are friendly and social beings who relate to others. They are often empathetic and responsive to the feelings and emotions of others, and especially significant to others. They will also use nonverbal communication to connect with others as infants. Although children with Down syndrome are typically late to talk and usually have a tough time communicating, they often want to be able to communicate with others and will often start communicating non-verbally as an infant to try to get the attention of adults. They usually also have delayed language development. According to DSFR, it takes longer to learn language skills than typically developing peers. Children and teens with Down syndrome may also demonstrate language disorders. They may learn a new skill in a sequence that hasn't often seen typically in developing peers. Children with Down syndrome may exceed in areas where you wouldn't expect a child to exceed at a certain age, while still not being able to develop skills that you would commonly see at that age. For example, they may not be able to speak, but they could still be great at communicating in other ways. Next is the emotional characteristics. The first one is stubbornness. According to globaldownsyndrome.org, many adults with Down syndrome are stereotyped to be stubborn, when in reality, they see it as a way to take a power of their own lives. They want to stand their ground and not be constantly told what to do. Another trait would be impulsivity. Children with Down syndrome often act quick without thinking, or as DSAGSL states, children with Down syndrome often do not notice the stop signs that tell them not to behave in a certain way. This, combined with the frustration of not fully being able to express themselves, may cause many outbursts of impulsivity. They often tend to have temper tantrums as well. According to KennedyKrieger.org, children with Down syndrome tend to respond with aggression, tantrums, or non-compliant behavior as a way of communicating a frustration or need. The behaviors are a result of the syndrome, not a symptom. This once again is an emotion often triggered by frustration and usually not being able to fully express their own emotions. Lastly, they will often have anxiety because of their trouble communicating. When they know that they have to communicate, this could lead to anxiety in those situations. Of course, there are many times when children with Down syndrome are happy, as any child is, but these other emotions are more caused by their syndrome. Now onto the physical characteristics. Many children with Down syndrome tend to be shorter than other children and adults. Because people with Down syndrome have an extra 21st chromosome, it tends to make their stature short. At full growth, an average man with Down syndrome is 5'2", and an average woman is 4'6". Their motor skills also develop at a slower rate. Children typically have lower muscle tone when younger, which stops them from reaching milestones at a typical pace, but as they get older, their muscle tone gets stronger and they eventually do develop motor skills. Many people with Down syndrome usually have a flattened face, especially at the bridge of the nose, almond-shaped eyes that slant up, a short neck, small ears, a tongue that tends to stick out of their mouth, tiny white spots on the iris, and small hands and feet. Lastly, there are 3 levels of functioning. The first is mild. Many people with mild Down syndrome have a slightly lower IQ than average, and they can usually hold a job and do other things on their own. They are also usually educated in a general education classroom. Many people with mild Down syndrome will often also get married. Next is moderate. Children with moderate Down syndrome typically have a lower IQ and will often need help to do everyday things. Usually people with moderate Down syndrome do not live alone, but they may live with a roommate or in a group home. They are often also educated in a general education class. Lastly, severe Down syndrome people tend to have the lowest IQ at about 20 to 35. They will almost never be allowed to live without someone being able to help or take care of them. They are also usually enrolled in a general education classroom. Next is the strengths and challenges. There are multiple strengths and challenges when a person has Down syndrome. Starting off with the strengths, they have a keenness for visual learning. Usually, people with Down syndrome have a heightened visual memory, and this makes them better visual learners than most. They are also usually highly empathetic and love socializing. They usually have superior intuition and ability to pick up on the feelings and emotions of others. They may even know how a person is feeling without it being openly expressed to them, because they often communicate non-verbally early on. When they do eventually develop their verbal skills, they are able to use both of them and become more social than some of their peers who do not have Down syndrome. They also have fast vocabulary acquisition. Children with Down syndrome tend to show a receptive language advantage, according to Asha. They understand words quicker than children without Down syndrome, leading them to know more words. Some of the challenges are greater risk for heart defects. According to Dr. Velati on everydayhealth.com, 47% of people born with Down syndrome have some type of heart defect. The severity could range, but it is extremely common. Another challenge is that they often have a lower IQ. This poses an obvious issue in the classroom because it is harder for them to learn. It is also because it takes them longer to learn things they are stuck on at one point for longer than other children. The last challenge is social stigmatization. Because they have Down syndrome, they are likely to face discrimination, whether it is by their peers or teachers or employers. Many people will judge them solely because of this. When teaching a child with Down syndrome, you have to take many things into account. If I were to teach a child with Down syndrome, here are some things that I would do. The first thing I would do was include as many visual resources that I can. Some visual resources would be visual schedules, visual timetables, social stories, or visual cues. These examples were provided by positiveaction.net. I would utilize all of these because I know that children with Down syndrome are better visual learners, and this would help them excel in the classroom. I would also encourage a lot of group work in order for students to interact with their peers. Usually, even though children with Down syndrome are social, they are often discriminated against by their peers. I would encourage group work in order for their peers to see the children as they really are, and so that they are not only classified by their Down syndrome. Also, partner work can help a student if they are not understanding something. They could see what their partner is doing and ask them for some help if needed. Lastly, I would break things down into smaller steps. This is because students with Down syndrome tend to learn things at a slower pace. If I were to break things down for them, they would be able to learn things more quickly, and this may also help their confidence in the classroom. I said this would help their confidence because they would see themselves achieving more quickly than they would typically expect. I would also want to provide my students with different resources in or outside of the classroom. Some of the resources that I would provide would be speech therapy. I would make sure that my student sees a therapist if it is in school or outside of school. Children with Down syndrome often have trouble with language acquisition, and it is extremely important for them to learn how to properly speak in order to do well in school. If they learn how to properly speak, it will make their confidence much higher, and they will be able to want to learn in school rather than being shy if they cannot speak. The second resource that I would want them to that I would provide for them is occupational therapy. This is another therapy that I would want my students to get in school or outside of school. This is also vital because children with Down syndrome often develop their motor skills at a slower rate than others. If they get occupational therapy, this could help their fine and gross motor skills. It can also help them become more independent and be able to do more things for themselves in school. Another resource that I found was on downsyndrome.org. It was called RLI. It is a teaching program designed to help students with Down syndrome read and help them more with their language skills. It is a daily one-to-one teaching program. This is something that could take place in schools, as it is about 40 minutes, which is equivalent to most elementary and middle school class periods. This program is typically for children ages 5 to 11. Another resource that I want to provide would be smartboards. I make sure that there is a smartboard in my classroom because this is something that can not only help Down syndrome students with their visual learning, but also help improve their motor skills. This is because they are able to come up and move things around as they please. Lastly, within the curriculum, I would make sure to include many pictures and have bigger fonts. Usually, children with Down syndrome are very good visual learners and would be able to do better if they could see the pictures. I would also use larger fonts because it would be easier for them to see and read words even if they fully do not know them. Next, I will be showing a clip about a man named Jared and how he does not let Down syndrome change his whole life.
What do you think smells better?
I think that smells better.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Lavender and vanilla. Wow.
Jared's always been a busy guy.
Hey Jared, you ready to go?
Whether it's been in sports or acting or just in general with all his friends. There's not a moment that he's not going someplace.
Well, for the candle business, we took a class. We also made candles for Christmas presents. That's how it began.
Thursdays are rough. With gone all day, come home, go to work, and then you have
Soccer
soccer practice
I know.
right after work. So how was your day?
Busy.
What's that?
Yeah, of course. I have 2 separate classes, and of course I have to read a new chapter. No, and the one who's just mad, Teeds, he is in my reading class.
There's the map that we made.
It do smell real good. We just put all 3 minds into one. That's how it kind of happened.
So are you excited to go to work today?
I am a host. It is called the Scully's Restaurant. No, it's not. I know it's not like a really big place, but we do have a really big sign. I have been working here since 6 years, and I really like it here. But it's always busy doing something. I think there's some booths that are open, I think.
Yeah.
I think so. I love Sonata. I do. It's always the best. Well, I do have so many friends who do work there too. And they know that I have a disability also. And they have accepted me also while I'm at work. But the best part at work is that I do get tips a lot, and I do get paid.
It's a pleasure to be around him. He makes me laugh a lot more than I ever cry. 'Cause I don't cry much, but I do laugh a lot with him, huh?
Yes.
He can get a little stubborn, but my wife says that about me too. So I mean,
It goes through the family, yes.
You know, it is a little extra work and time, but the rewards are so much greater. It can be very frustrating at times, but I would be,
Oh yeah.
would get frustrated with my other son too. But what I would like other people to know about Down syndrome is hopefully not to just judge them right away on their appearance and thinking of what they're able to do and what they're not able to do.
Well, I would mostly say that never let anyone put you down. Be yourself. You are born this way. Never give up. Never say the R word, and just be yourself.
So I wanted to include this video in my presentation because it shows just how capable someone with Down syndrome could be. He is always busy doing things such as holding a job, taking classes, even mentioning that he plays sports, and he also runs his own business despite his Down syndrome. He has never let the fact that he has Down syndrome stop him, and he works extremely hard to get what he wants out of life. I read for my first personality was Callison, growing up with Down syndrome. This book gave me a lot of insight because it was in the narrative of two men with Down syndrome. Both men were doubted throughout their whole lives for having this disability, and in the end proved everyone wrong. They both graduated with honor roll and near the tops of their class. They were extremely hardworking and smart. Both authors did have problems controlling their emotions, and they were both extremely impulsive. They are both picked on sometimes in school for having Down syndrome. They often also talked a lot about women and had hopes of one day getting married. This book once again showed me just how hard people with Down syndrome work to beat any stereotype against them, and showed me and many others that anything is possible when you believe in yourself. They showed many realities that they needed to face, but in the end they always prevailed. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and learned something from it.